Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Back with you with part 3 of this spirit-led teaching. Discerning the difference between the spirit of Christ and the spirit of the world. Discerning the difference between the spirit of Christ and the spirit of the world. And only the true Christian knows the difference between the true Christ and what it means to be truly blessed and the false Christ, where the spiritually cursed or by design, by natural design, made to look blessed. We have to know the difference between looking blessed and being blessed. The difference between looking blessed and being blessed is a true Christian lets their light shine. Well, a false Christian is natural. They use the material things of the world to hide behind, and they call themselves blessed according thereto. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous. That's called a fig leaf. That's called a covering. And as Adam took it, as God took it from Adam, he's also going to take it from those who attempt to use anything, whether it be religion or possessions or any such thing to hide behind. He's going to take it from them. Discerning the difference between the spirit of Christ and the spirit of the world, that our faith should not stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. 1 Corinthians 2:5. Let us get started. 1 John 4:1 and 2. It says, Beloved, test the spirit to see whether it be of God, to whether it be of the spirit of God. For many false prophets, false Christs have gone into the world. So it says to test the spirit to see whether it be the spirit of God, which is the spirit of Christ, according to Romans 8:9. For many false Christs, according to the spirit of the world, have entered into the world. So to test the spirit, we have to test the spirit. And you test the spirit by light, because Satan is darkness. And light will make darkness manifest. It'll make it manifest. And not only make it manifest, but there'll be a clear distinction between that spiritual light and that spiritual darkness, between the spirit of Christ and the spirit of the world. The spirit of the world, which is Antichrist, is limited to the letter. Once you're in Christ, the spirit of the world, Antichrist, becomes elementary because he's limited to the letter. And he unlawfully uses the letter to bring and bind people into Bible-based religion in the flesh, keeping them out of the light of Christ in the spirit. Keeping them out of the light of Christ in the spirit. 1 John 4:5 and 6. 1 John 4:5 and 6. 1 John 4:5 and 6 says, They are of the world, therefore speak they of the world, and the world hears them. Those that are of the spirit of the world. We are of God. He that knows God hear us, and he that is not of God hears not us. Hereby know we the spirit of Christ and the spirit of the world. The spirit of the world, they're going to religiously speak, and the world going to hear them because they're of that same spirit. When the true children of God speak, it is by revelation of the Spirit. And when they speak by revelation of the Spirit, the world cannot hear them. Only those that are truly of God can hear them. The world cannot. So it's showing us how to test the Spirit. You test the Spirit by the knowledge of Christ's Spirit. This is how you test the Spirit to see whether it be of Christ or whether it be of God. One John 3:8-9. 3:8-9 said, He that committed sin is of the devil, and sin is the mindset. We sin spiritually. Sin is spiritual. He that committed sin is of the devil, for the devil sinned from the beginning. from the beginning. For this purpose was the Son of God manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. So the works of the devil being spiritual, the purpose of God is for the eternal spirit of Christ to manifest through us to destroy the works of the devil, because only light can destroy darkness. Only light can destroy darkness. And if you're in a church that has not embraced the light, that church is being defeated by darkness. And the most successful defeat that Satan can give you in darkness is he makes defeat look like victory. He makes defeat look like victory, but it's actually defeat. It's actually defeat. Whosoever is born of God does not commit sin, for his seed remaineth in him, and he cannot sin because he is born of God. Now this throws off a lot of church people, because I have frequented churches where they have said, well, we've all sinned and come short of the glory of God. That's true. But once we're born of the Spirit of God, we can no longer sin, because we're cut off from the root of sin, and the soul and body dies to the fruit of sin. So how are you going to sin? As our spirit is risen to the newness of life in Christ, through transformation of the mind of our spirit back to the image of his spirit, the soul is redeemed and physical body made alive and brought under the government and regeneration of the first fruit lifestyle of the spirit. So how are you going to sin if you cut off from sin? What is happening is they cannot discern between the act of sin and the fruit of sin. Through us can no longer, if you're born of the Spirit, then through you can no longer be produced the fruit of sin. But we are still capable of being tempted and committing an act of sin. We have to know the difference between an act of sin and the fruit of sin. When it says that which is born of God cannot sin, it's talking about the fruit. But we can still commit the act in the flesh. But without that act being carried out by the fruit of sin in the spirit, it's pointing us to the spirit. That's why that which is born of God cannot sin, because that which is born of God is cut off from the root of sin, and the soul and body dead to the fruit of sin. So no, if you are born of the Spirit, you cannot sin. You cannot sin. You can be seduced into an act of sin, but through you can no longer be the fruit of sin. It can't manifest through you anymore. 1 Timothy 4:15 says that to meditate on these things, so that our profiting, our prosperity may appear unto all, that the abundant life of Christ in us and through it may shine, it'll shine through us, and our prosperity may appear to all. 1 Timothy 4:15. 3 John 1:2 says, Beloved, I pray above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. That you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. That you may prosper and be in health where? Even as your soul prospers. Don't you know even your flesh will prosper in accordance with the Spirit? Because your flesh is brought back under the regeneration of the Spirit. Beloved, I pray above all things. Now, what is all things? I pray above all things in the flesh that you be in health and prosper according to the revelation of Christ in the Spirit. According to the revelation of Christ in the Spirit, I pray above all things that you may prosper and be in health as your soul prospers. Above all things in the flesh, that you may prosper and be in health as your soul prospers in the Spirit. Well, how does your soul prosper? Your soul prospers in accordance with your spirit, because your spirit the Lord addresses your soul, the condition of the soul, through the Spirit, through your spirit, through your born again spirit. He addresses the condition of the soul through your born again spirit. And your health in the flesh. You see, once you become spiritually healthy, you're going to become naturally healthy. because it's already in. It's all your health in the to the flesh is in the fruit of the spirit. It's in the fruit of the spirit, the liberty of the spirit, the fruit of the spirit, the lifestyle of the spirit. It sets us free from the flesh, where we enjoy food from a place of health, but no longer in that idolatrous state, using food as a source of health. That's idolatry. That's an idolatrous mindset. Your health ain't in food. The Lord designed food to be enjoyed from a place of health, not to be used as a source of health. Just like money is to be used from a place of being rich, not using money, not being deceived by the deception of it to make it, to make us think we're rich. Let us go to Proverbs 3, 7 and 8. Proverbs 3, 7 and 8 says, be not wise in your own eyes. It's telling us to be not wise in our own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. Be not wise in your own eyes. This is why we must know the difference between the spirit of Christ and the spirit of the world. As 1 Corinthians 2:5 says that our faith would not stand in the wisdom of men, that's mankind in the flesh, but in the power of God, that's Christ in the spirit. It shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones. It shall be health to your navel and marrow to your bones. As you're walking in the spirit and your flesh comes under the government of Christ's spirit, your flesh is going to get regenerated, because the fruit of the spirit is the health of the flesh. It's the health of the flesh. Let us go to Proverbs 4:22. Proverbs 4:22 says, for it's talking about the knowledge of Christ. For they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. The knowledge of God is life unto those that receive it, and it's health to all their flesh. But the health to the flesh come through the spirit, because your health in the flesh is in the fruit of the spirit. When we fell from grace and sickness and disease entered into the world, where did sickness and disease enter into the world from? Through the spirit. That means sickness and disease is spiritual, because it came through our fallen spirit to the soul, then to the body, and made the physical body sick. Well, through being born of the spirit, you're cut off from the root of sin. Your soul and body dies to the fruit of sin. When you're cut off from the root of sickness, the soul and body dies to the fruit of sickness. Because that which is born of God cannot sin. Also, that which is born of God is freed from the penalties of sin. And sickness and disease is a penalty of sin. Sickness and disease is a penalty of sin. And you got people with this church mentality going to try to get hands laid on them, which ain't going to do them no good. Nice people, what we from a perspective of human beings, of our humanity, would call good people, but they're spiritually ignorant. They're following tradition. They're following Bible-based tradition. And like I said, from a human perspective, we would consider them to be good people, nice people, helpful people, give you the shirt off their back. But they're spiritually illiterate. They're spiritually illiterate. And oftentimes when a lot of these people come to the revelation of Christ, or Christ will send light to them, then because they're in their sensuality, they're very sensitive. They're easily offended. They're easily offended. Let's go back to John 6:63 as we conclude this teaching. John 6:63. It is the spirit that makes alive. The flesh profits nothing. The words I speak unto you, they are spirit, they are life. The written word says, it is the spirit that makes alive. The flesh profits nothing. So Jesus was flesh. Christ in Jesus, who is Jesus in his eternal state, in his original state, is spirit. So Jesus himself is telling you he can profit you nothing. And a church mentality is a Jesus mentality. And Jesus was flesh. So if Jesus was flesh and he says the flesh profits nothing, then he's telling you he can profit you nothing in the flesh. You have to be in him in his original state as the Christ in the spirit. As the Christ in the spirit, then he's going to profit you everything. He becomes your prosperity. When you got a Jesus mentality in the flesh, you're pursuing what you think is prosperity, the things of the world, because you got a flesh mentality. But when you're in Jesus in his original state as the Christ in the spirit, where he never had a beginning and had an end, then you enter into true prosperity. You enter into true prosperity. So it is the spirit that makes alive. The flesh profits nothing. Health don't come from the flesh. There's nothing wrong with exercising and jogging or bike riding if we do those things because we enjoy to do them. But if we're doing it because we think it brings some type of health to our flesh, no. That's the spirit of the world mindset. That's the flesh relying on the flesh to sustain the flesh. But it can never ever happen because the flesh didn't create itself. The flesh cannot sustain itself. The spirit made the flesh. And the spirit made the flesh to be strong under the government of the spirit. And it can't be strong any other way. It has to be in the preservation of the spirit. And that comes through the flesh coming back under the government of the spirit as we as born again spiritual men and women are in obedience to Christ in the mind of our spirit to his spirit. In the mind of our spirit to his spirit. And that brings us to the end of this teaching. And it's such a blessing. It's such a blessing to be able to bring these teachings online and knowing what the Lord, who is the author of this work, is going to do with them. Because he's going to bless many a people with his work. He's going to bless many a people through his knowledge. I love you and I thank you. See you in the next series. God bless you.